Now that you know everything you need to know to write your own function library, let's use that to actually write a few functions that will make your PHP coding a whole lot easier. If you're anything like me, the one piece of code that you hate typing more than anything else is that HTML special cars function that you need to type every time you output some value, some PHP value that you can't necessarily trust into your HTML document. If we open up the jokes example that we've been looking at again today, the jokes.html.php file here, our PHP template that outputs the list of jokes, it has a prime example of this right here where we output the joke text. We have to echo HTML special cars, then we have to say what it is we actually want to output, and then we have these end quotes and UTF-8 arguments that are really annoying, not only to type, but just to have to remember. It's a pain in the butt to have to type all this every time you want to output a PHP value into your page. So let's write a function library that'll make this easier. And what I like to call my functions that I use to make writing PHP templates easier, I like to call them template helpers. So what we're going to do in the includes folder, that folder that we have set up for our shared include files, I've created a file for you called helpers.inc.php. And as usual, it's just an empty PHP script to begin with. But this is where we will put your template helpers. So this will be a library of functions that make writing PHP templates easier. So the first one we want is to get rid of this HTML special cars gobbledygook. Let's write a function just called, let's call it HTML, because what we're going to be outputting is HTML code. We want to convert our PHP string into safe HTML text. So I'm going to write a function called HTML, and it will take a single argument that is the text that I want to output on my page. And what this function will do is it will return the result of using the HTML special cars function to convert that text using that end quotes option that we have to type every time and the UTF-8 character encoding. So there we go. This function now knows how to convert any piece of text into the HTML special cars processed version of it and will return it. So now that we have that, I'm going to save that helpers.inc.php file, and I'll go back to my PHP template here, and right at the top I'm going to put an include statement that adds my my function library with all of my template helpers in it. So I'm going to include once server document root, then /includes /helpers.inc.php. So there we go. That statement will load my template helpers, and I'll save that. And now down here where I'm doing HTML special cars, I can replace all this with just a call to my new HTML function, and all it needs to take is that joke text that I want to output. So there, that looks a whole lot better. And it really communicates what I'm trying to do, which is convert this value into HTML using my custom function, and then I'm echoing that out. Now I can make this even slicker by getting rid of this echo statement, and let's make another function just called HTML out that says not only do I want to convert this value to HTML, but I want to send it to the browser. I want to output it right away. So I'll save that change, and I'll go back to my helpers.inc.php, and I'm going to write a second function, my HTML out function, which again takes a piece of text. Now I could say echo HTML special cars blah 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 and write it all out there, but I've already got my HTML function that knows how to do that HTML special cars conversion. So rather than write it again, I will just call my HTML function here and pass it that text variable that I have received as an argument. So now HTML out echoes whatever I get from my custom HTML function that I've written up here. So this second function relies on my first function. Isn't that neat how I've written two functions and I can build up over time so that my functions get more and more powerful because they can reuse the stuff that I've written in my earlier functions. So back here in jokes.html.php, I can use that HTML function there. So let me save that change and let me open up my jokes example. So the address is jokes. And there we go. My example is still working and it's outputting the text correctly. Even though I am no longer having to write that whole HTML special cars thing. I'm just relying on my template helper to do all the hard work for me. And I don't know about you, but typing HTML out makes a lot more sense and is a lot easier to remember than that whole HTML special cars trick. And especially as you start writing pages that have, you know, dozens of dynamic values that you have to output in them, having this template helper function will help out a lot. While I'm working with this example, I might as well go into the index.php, the controller there, and this magic quotes code here at the top. Well, we now have an include file that has that code in it, so I might as well replace that with include once. Server document root dot includes magic quotes dot inc.php. So there I'm reusing my magic quotes include file that you created in the article earlier. And I'm still using a database include that is specific to this directory. Instead, I might as well just reuse my shared one. So I'll copy that line and paste that in here. And instead of magic quotes, it's db.inc.php that I'm loading. So there we go. Now my script is reusing those shared include files instead of having to have include files of its own. And let's run my example one more time just to check that it's still working. Reload, and yep, there we go. So that is how you apply, well, you make use of PHP's include features and custom function features to better organize your code so that you're not repeating yourself, you're not typing the same long and hard to remember pieces of code over and over again. Instead, you tuck those pieces of code away into shared include files that you can carry with you, not only throughout this project, but into your next project even. So you never have to remember that HTML special cars gobbledygook again. You can just keep reusing that include file that you've written through the whole rest of your career. And you know, if PHP evolves and there's a better function than HTML special cars down the line, well, you can just update it in one place. Just update your shared include file and all of your scripts will reuse that new way of doing things. It's a really powerful way of working, and that's what we'll be doing from this point on in the course.